I want you to close your eyes for a second. Picture a teenage boy's bedroom. It's the early 80s. The walls are probably, a pale blue or beige, cluttered with all the usual stuff. Band posters, trophies, a messy desk.
Sure.
But right in the middle of one wall, in a place of honor, there's a framed photograph.
Okay. And it's the kind of photo everyone has somewhere, right? A youth football team.
Exactly. You can just see it. That's September sunlight, green grass, 2 rows of boys in these oversized pads, all trying to look tough for the camera.
And in the back row, the coaches, the mentors, the adults.
Right. And for the boy who lived in that room, his name was Tim. That photo, it wasn't just decoration. It was like a totem, a lifeline.
It represented something.
It did. He looked at it every single day for motivation. It was his image of strength, of camaraderie. It was the system that helped him survive the absolute darkest event of his life.
An image of safety.
That's the word. Safety. But this is why we're here today.
Yeah.
Because if you walk up to that wall, if you lean in really close, and you look at the man standing in the back row, the one with the whistle around his neck, resting his hand on the shoulders of the boys, you realize that image isn't a lifeline.
It's a crime scene.
It's a crime scene.
Yeah.
For 38 years, that man was hiding in plain sight.
So Tim is looking at this photo for comfort, never, ever realizing he's staring right into the eyes of the man who murdered his mother.
That is the visual betrayal we are unpacking today.
Yeah.
It's a detail that it makes your blood run cold.
It really does.
We're diving deep into the Linda Slaton case from 1981. And I have to say, just looking at the files here, the police reports, the timelines, this isn't just a murder mystery.
No, it's a psychological horror story. It's a case study in proximity. We're really going to be looking at the tension between two personas.
Two faces.
Right. The public face of a trusted mentor and the private reality of a predator who has the patience to wait in a pitch-black closet while a family sleeps just feet away.
And the most disturbing part is that they exist in the same person. So let's get into it. We need to go back to Lakeland, Florida, September 3rd, 1981.
The setting here is just so crucial. Linda Slaton is 31. She's a single mother, 2 sons. Jeff is 15. Tim is 12.
And when you read between the lines of the reports, you see a woman who is basically trying to pull off a high-wire act with no net.
She's in the middle of a massive life reset. She just moved down from Alabama.
And she's running from a lot of demons.
She is. She escaped an abusive ex-husband, a guy named Frank, who was still sending her these threatening letters. Yeah. And just 2 days before this, she'd broken up with a boyfriend, Brendan, because he was getting controlling.
So she was actively trying to scrub these toxic men from her life.
But that independence came at a huge cost. There's a detail in the file that really, really grounds this for me. It's not about forensics, it's about dinner.
Oh, right.
It mentions her standing in her kitchen that night, just staring at a cupboard that is almost completely bare.
It's such a vivid image of desperation, isn't it?
Yeah. She has 2 growing boys to feed, she's broke, and all she has is, like, a can of beans and some flour, so she has to improvise a bean casserole. That pit in her stomach, that was her headspace when the sun went down.
And that stress, it just bleeds into the house.
Yeah.
Her older son, Jeff, the 15-year-old, he comes in, he sees the casserole, and he's a teenager, he's hungry, he's angsty.
And he snaps.
He does. And, it's standard operating procedure for a 15-year-old, but in the context of what happens next, it's just tragic.
They get into a huge shouting match. Jeff storms out of the apartment. And that argument is the last real conversation he ever has with his mother.
It's the thing that haunts him. But while Jeff is storming out, the younger brother, Tim, he's coming home.
From football practice.
Right. And this moment, this little interaction right here, is the absolute pivot point for the entire case.
Tim walks in, sweating, carrying his gear, and Linda asks him the question that every mother asks. Did you thank your coach for the ride home?
And Tim says, yes, I did.
And we have to pause on that, because Linda didn't have a car. She couldn't afford one.
Right.
So she was completely reliant on the goodwill of the community, of these coaches, to help raise her boys. She was entrusting her son's safety to this man. It was a transaction of absolute trust.
And on the surface, it worked. The coach drops him off. Tim is safe. And the evening actually settles down a bit. Linda and Tim go to a neighbor's housewarming party.
Just a little moment of normalcy, drinking iced tea, meeting the neighbors.
Yeah. They get back to the apartment around 11 p.m. Jeff has come home by then. There's a quiet moment between Linda and Jeff, mumbled, I love you in the dark.
The lights go out, the house goes to sleep.
Now, in a typical home invasion, this is where you'd hear the glass break, the door being kicked in. But that is not what happened here.
No. And this is where we have to shift our whole perspective, from the family to the predator. Because when investigators rebuilt the scene the next day, they realized the threat wasn't trying to get in.
The threat was already inside.
This is the closet theory.
And I really want to unpack this because it is pure nightmare fuel. The next morning, Linda's sister finds the door locked. She looks through the window, sees Linda on the bed, strangled.
And when Sergeant Edgar Pickett, the head of the crime scene unit, arrives, he spots something very specific.
The murder weapon.
A wire coat hanger, twisted around her neck.
And Pickett looks at the hanger, and then he looks at the open closet door just a few feet away.
And he sees identical wire hangers hanging right there.
So follow the logic here.
Right. If an intruder breaks in to attack, they bring a weapon. A gun, a knife, something. Or if it's a crime of passion, they grab the nearest heavy object. A lamp.
They don't walk into the bedroom closet, quietly select a wire hanger, and then attack.
Exactly. The selection of that weapon implies the killer was in the closet before the attack even began.
So the timeline just completely shifts. He didn't break in at 2 a.m. He likely took the screen off and climbed through the window much, much earlier.
Probably while Linda and Tim were at that party.
He climbs in. He hears them coming back. And he just steps into the closet and waits.
I want you, the listener, to just sit with that image. You're Linda Slaton. You come home, you do the dishes, brush your teeth, say goodnight to your kids, you turn off the lamp.
And the entire time, 6 feet away behind a slided door, a man is standing in the dark.
It requires a level of patience that is almost reptilian. He's not frantic, he's not rushing, he is just listening to the rhythm of the house.
Waiting for her breathing to change. For deep sleep.
It's a supreme act of control. He possessed that room long before he ever stepped out of the closet.
And when he finally moved.
It was a blitz, that's the term they use. Fast, overwhelming, brutal. Linda likely never even fully woke up. It was over in moments.
And then, just as quietly, he slips back out the window. Gone. Into the floor tonight. But he did leave something.
Two things. A palm print on the windowsill, right where he pushed himself in or out.
And biological evidence. Semen.
But this is 1981.
Right, DNA profiling is years away.
So at that time, that evidence was just a stain. They could get a blood type O, but that's it. It couldn't give them a name. It was basically a time bomb ticking away in an evidence locker, just waiting for science to catch up.
So physical evidence is a dead end. The police start to go back to old-fashioned detective work. They look at the usual suspects.
And honestly, looking at Linda's life, they had a pretty strong lineup. You always start with the ex-partner.
First up, Frank, the ex-husband.
He had the motive. Angry, abusive, sending threats, but
No.
he was in Alabama, rock-solid alibi, couldn't have done it.
Okay, so then you look at Brendan, the boyfriend she just dumped.
Classic suspect, rejection rage, he had a temper, they bring him in, they put him on a polygraph, and the results are inconclusive.
Which usually makes the cops focus on you like a laser.
It does, but when they compared his fingerprints to that palm print on the windowsill, no match.
So they're striking out.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and this is the part that just breaks your heart, they turn the spotlight on Jeff.
Her 15-year-old son.
It happens more than you'd think. Proximity makes you a suspect. He was in the house, the neighbors heard them arguing.
They leaned on him hard. They were asking, did you snap? Did you hurt your mom?
Can you imagine the trauma? You're 15, your mother has just been murdered, and the police are looking at you.
It's devastating, but logically, the theory didn't hold water. Why would a kid who lives in the next room go outside and break in through a window? And his prints didn't match either. He was cleared. Physically.
But psychologically, a different story.
The damage was total. This is where the story really splits for the two boys. Jeff, the older one, he internalized all that guilt.
He felt he should have protected her.
Yeah. He dropped out of school. The sources say he slept with a knife under his pillow for years, just consumed by fear.
And Tim, the 12-year-old.
Tim went the other way. He needed structure. He desperately needed a father figure, a protector, so he threw himself into football. He leaned entirely on his coaches.
He clung to that team photo.
He did. He put it on his wall. He looked at those men, those authority figures, as the people who saved him from the chaos. He trusted them implicitly. They were the only stability he had left.
The irony is just gut-wrenching. But the case goes cold. The boys grow up. The file gathers dust.
And it's not until 20 years later, in 2001, that we get a pulse.
Enter Detective Brad Grice. Now, Grice is fascinating because he has a personal stake in this. He's reviewing cold cases, he picks up the Slaton file, and he realizes Wait a minute, I know the son. I know Jeff Slaton.
From a bowling league. Small town life.
Exactly. You're bowling with a guy, and suddenly you're holding the file on his mother's murder. Grice made a promise. He told the boys he would not retire until he solved it.
And by 2001, DNA technology had finally arrived.
So they take the sample out of the evidence locker, they get a profile, they run it against the databases.
And until nothing.
Nothing. A ghost. And this is the frustration of that early DNA era. The database, CODIS, it only works if the killer's already been caught for something else.
So if your killer has a clean record, it's useless. Useless. They did have one huge red herring, though. A guy named Jimmy Elmer.
Right, he was a known home invader who lived in the same apartment complex back in '81.
Grice was convinced. He thought this has to be the guy. But Elmer was dead by then. They had to track down his family, get a DNA sample, and it was a mismatch.
Crushing. Grice chases this for 14 years. And in 2015, he retires. He has to make that phone call to Jeff and say, "I'm sorry, I failed."
It's the call every detective dreads. It seemed like the secret was going to stay buried forever, but science keeps evolving. And in 2019, we get the breakthrough.
Genetic genealogy.
The same tech that caught the Golden State Killer.
And for anyone who doesn't know, this is where investigators upload the killer's DNA profile to public genealogy sites, the places you use to find out if you're, part Irish.
Right. You're not looking for the killer, you're looking for his second cousin who decided to build a family tree one afternoon.
So you find a distant relative, you build the tree backward, and you look for a branch that leads to a male who was in Lakeland, Florida in 1981.
It's a massive process of elimination. And in June 2019, the genealogists hand the detectives a name.
And they pull the evidence for 1981. That palm print.
That palm print from the windowsill, they compare it to this man's military records, and it's a perfect match.
The name is Joseph Mills.
Tim's football coach.
Let's just sit with that. Joseph Mills, the man in the back row of that photograph.
The betrayal here is so multi-layered. It's not just that he was the coach. Remember what we said? Linda didn't have a car.
Joseph Mills was the family chauffeur.
He was the one driving Tim home from practice every day.
Think about the access that gave him. He didn't have to stalk the house from the bushes.
No. He was invited to the front door. He knew Linda's schedule. He knew when she was alone. He knew the layout of the apartment because he dropped the boy off there constantly.
And the sources confirm he drove Tim home the afternoon of the murder, September 3rd.
He drops Tim off. He sees Linda. He sees the vulnerability, the isolation. And he makes a decision. He comes back later that night, removes the screen, and steps into that closet.
But for me, the most monstrous part isn't the murder itself. It's what he did the next day, and the week after, and the year after that.
This is where you see the true psychopathy. A normal person, if they did this, they would flee. They would quit their job, move away.
Joseph Mills didn't go anywhere.
He just showed up to practice.
He showed up to practice.
Blew his whistle, ran drills. He looked Tim Slaton in the eye, the boy whose mother he had just strangled with a coat hanger. And he played the role of the supportive mentor.
That is, it's beyond comprehension. It's truly psychopathic.
It's a power play, the ultimate form of control. He took the mother's life, and then he stepped right in to fill the void as the father figure. He let that boy look up to him. He let Tim keep that photo on the wall, knowing all the while that he was the monster in the background.
He was mocking them with his very presence.
For 38 years, he lived a full life, got married, had a career. He was a respected member of the community. If not for a distant cousin spitting in a tube, Joseph Mills would have died a free man.
He would have been eulogized as a great coach who helped kids.
When they finally arrested him in 2019, he was an old man, 78. He pled guilty, was sentenced to life without parole. So, technically, justice was served.
Legal justice, yes. But the psychological scar, you can't prosecute that away.
Yeah.
It just shatters the whole concept of safe spaces, doesn't it? We spend all this time teaching our kids about stranger danger. Watch out for the unmarked van, the guy at the park.
But statistically, that's not where the real danger is. The Linda Slaton case forces us to confront that the predator isn't always a monster lurking in the shadows. Sometimes, the predator is the guy with the clipboard, the guy with the whistle.
The guy you thank for the ride home.
It creates a paradox. We have to trust people to function as a society, coaches, teachers, doctors. But this case proves that the camouflage is real. Joseph Mills didn't look like a killer. He looked like a helper.
And that's how he hid in plain sight for 4 decades. Makes you want to go home and look at your own photo albums differently.
It really does.
You look at those old class photos, the Little League pictures, the birthday parties. You see all the smiling faces in the front row, your friends, your family.
And you have to ask yourself the uncomfortable question. We know who the kids are, but do we really know who is standing in the back row?
How many of us have a monster smiling in the background of a cherished memory, and we just haven't realized it yet?
That's the lingering horror of this case.
That is a terrifying thought to leave on, but a necessary one. Stay safe out there.
And trust your gut.
We'll see you next time.